you for strength you place in the fire. We ask you for patience, you pound the sin forward, you baptize with your spirit. Our tension strength grows high. We come forth with fruit from the forge.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Forge. Again, this is Scott Frisbie filling in for Pastor Michael. Joining me this week, we have Wayne Elling and Ray Copelin, and we're keeping the heat turned up again. We're kind of carrying on with our topic that we had in our last episode, where it was about why do people stay away from the church, but rather than focusing on what's going on inside the church, we're kind of focusing on what happens outside the church that keeps people away. One of the big things we find is the Westboro Baptist Church, with all of the things that they've done, with all the attitudes. It's not like most of the media have picked up on that. This is what Christians are like, and you'll find portrayals on TV shows and movies that Christians are people who hate anybody who isn't like them, who doesn't believe politically what they do, who doesn't believe all the social things that they do, and so we've got that bad press going against us. But I think that, part of our job as Christians is to prove that press wrong, that we are not like that. I saw one where somebody had mentioned that was like one congregation, and the percentage was 0.00 and a whole pile of zeros before it was what the percentage of churches are like that. Most churches, they're trying to serve God. Mm-hmm. But this week we kind of want to take a look at what happens outside the church doors that might be keeping people away. I know one of the things in my life that actually kind of turned me away from Christ. I had kind of grown up going to church, and then got to be a teenager, and it was like, sleeping in was more important than going to church. But it was, what I was seeing in the people that I knew went to church, I didn't see any change in their lives. They were the same people Monday that they were on, once they got out of those church walls, there was no change in their lives. There was, that being in church really didn't seem to have any impact on their lives. So it was like, okay, if it's not doing anything, why do it? Mm-hmm. That was one of the things for me, and that kind of turned me off of church. And then later on in my college years, when I started seeking, I got a little Gideon Bible and was reading, you just got the New Testament. I started on Matthew and made it up, a few chapters in. So there I'm at the Sermon on the Mount, and Jesus is saying, "This is what my followers are like." And I said, I've never seen that. And so at that point, I just kind of, this Christianity just doesn't work, Mm-hmm. So I went and got mixed up with a bunch of other stuff before God finally got a hold of me again. Mm-hmm. But it was one of those things where I wasn't seeing the impact on people's life, But there's lots of things that tend to drive people away. What they see in Christians outside of church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was attending Beaverton Foursquare Church, with thousands of people, there was a guy who would, I would label him a Christian of sorts. He would stand by the sidewalk, which was by the main road of the church, and there was a parking lot across that main road. And so there would be a policeman there, with guiding people across the crosswalk. Well, it was busy. I mean, there were people coming and going, and it was a busy, busy place. And this guy would stand there by himself, and he would say, "You need to repent. You dress like prostitutes. Does this please God? And he would go on, just yelling this out, not to anyone in particular, but just, out. And I was just thought, you would think, okay, people driving by the road, and they're hearing this guy and thinking, I'm not so sure I want to go to that church. It's interesting. Here's a Christian condemning people in our church for how they dress, evidently. And we had the full gamut in a church that large, where you have people dressing in three-piece suits to T-shirts and shorts.
Yeah.
And, of course there's no dress code. It's come as you are.
Yeah.
And, I just wonder, did he ever set foot inside that church? I seriously doubt it.
Yeah.
And yet he was condemning the people that attended our church.
But so, one of the things, people outside the church, I was seeing, some of the street preachers I'd seen, like downtown Seattle, and most people just kind of walk by him, and I gotta feel, somehow they feel God has led them to do that. But God hasn't led me to do that.
Yeah.
But and I kind of wonder, so people that are walking by in the street, how do they view that? I mean, they see, oh, this guy is nuts, or I don't. It's one of those odd things. There's like, okay, God,
Yeah.
I mean, you even look in the Bible, at the Old Testament, some of the prophets and
Right,
stuff, that
yeah.
God had them doing some pretty strange stuff. It's like, okay, how many of the people walking by Jerusalem maybe seeing, John the Baptist wearing his outfit, with everybody else has got normal clothes and he's got this hairy garment and stuff, what's up with that guy, I mean, you gotta, it's like, does that, some people were drawn to him and others were,
Yeah. Well, I remember watching a YouTube video and seeing a street preacher. He was standing on like a 5-gallon paint bucket type of thing to, so he could be up above the other people. And there were quite a few people around listening to him, and what he had to say was really pretty good.
Yeah.
And a guy came along and kicked the bucket, literally kicked the bucket right out from under him. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, whoa. And I mean, he could have been seriously hurt. And okay, here's a real test, of see what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And he was gentle and kind. And I thought, okay, this guy actually, I think he is being a witness for the Lord.
Yeah.
And
It's hard to measure a motivation. You can't put your arms around it.
Yeah.
You can't see it.
Yeah.
You can imagine what that street preacher's motivation was.
Yeah.
And you would imagine that he believes that he has a gift within him that everybody walking by him doesn't have. And he wants them to have what he has. He wants them to have that eternal insurance, possibly, because typically that's given in a hellfire and brimstone, turn or burn type message. But we do have to recognize the gift that we have, and that a lot of people don't have, and just ask the Lord, provide me a divine appointment today. There's somebody, Lord, that you have on a path that's going to be in an intersection where I'm going to be at. Let me be aware of that moment. Put the words in my mouth to convey, impart this gift that I have to them, that they can see it's available for them also.
Yeah. And there's, every now and then you get some of the stories where somebody's, there's been a street preacher that, somebody's life was changed, it's like, okay, something,
Yeah.
but, it's like, okay. And, I don't know if people avoid church thinking, if I become a Christian, I'm going to end up like that.
Yeah.
There's still the old, God, if I become a Christian, God's going to send me off to Africa or something like that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those, it's just an odd thing. It's one of those odd ministries that, people have got to be called that. It's not like, okay, we've got a Sunday school class, we're all going to go out on the street corners and we're going to, tell about Jesus. If God doesn't give you that, you've got to go with what God's got for you, because God's got different things for different, all the different personalities, all the different ministries, and even some, I just think it too, like I was trying to think of the incidents where Jesus was talking to non-Christians. There was just a couple, and most of the time he's hanging around Jesus, but I was thinking, like, the woman caught in adultery, there's this person who's definitely outside the normal faith at that point, and God doesn't say, you sinner,
Right. Yeah.
he's very gentle. And, the Samaritan woman at the well, it's like, hey, whenever he has these interactions, it's always very gentle. The people, it's not like the people leave, says, hey, sin no more. You're forgiven, And I think, it's one of those things, as we approach people that, we're approaching them with love, I think the person condemning everybody outside the church is like, come on,
Yeah. Well, you probably remember years ago when, there were protests against abortion clinics,
Yeah.
and of course it's tied with the church, and
Yeah.
then there was the guy who killed an abortion doctor,
Yeah.
and that really didn't do a lot to help the cause, and
No.
to
So
promote.
all Christians want to murder all
Right.
the abortion
Yeah.
doctors.
And so they're, I know people, including myself, are thinking, so you're going to kill somebody else, and you're against these people because they're killing, and yet it's okay for you to kill, and it's just, I don't think it helped the cause of Christ at all with, doing something like that.
Oh, yeah, and it's one of, I think the protests and stuff, it's like, I think that's where we really have to say, okay, God, if God says, okay, I want you to go out there and protest stuff, it's how you do it, it's like,
Yeah.
you kind of look at somebody who's going out and committing murder as part of their protest. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
something's not quite right there.
Right.
But there are certain things that need to be protests, but I said, one of the things, I guess probably for the Westboro church, all the things they protest, it's like, okay, is that really helping spread God's love for people coming to Christ when they see that? That's one of the rough aspects of a lot of that. And we are called to stand, our kingdom is not of this world, and there's a lot of stuff going on in this world that says, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, life happens for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's difficulties around the corner that we don't know about.
Yeah.
And I think the best avenue we can be there as a church is to try to be there with that individual and support them in the best way we can.
Yeah.
I talked last week about being on the golf course, and you get to know people on the golf course, and there's an opportunity that you're hearing about the loss of a loved one or a difficulty that's developed in somebody's family, of taking the moment to show you care and to ask if you can pray for them, and just being there in whatever capacity that you have to share the Lord.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, there's where the answer is.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing I've found is like, no matter who you talk to, if you get past, once you get past the superficial hellos and stuff, dang, everybody is going through something.
Yeah.
Everybody has got something they're struggling with. There's something, something in their life is being really rough. Maybe something just blew up in their life. Maybe they, whether it be, a personal tragedy or tragedy, somebody close to them. Everybody's got something they're going through.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like nobody's got this
So
all
true.
together. Nobody actually lives a life that's portrayed on Instagram. Instagram, everything is perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, my blemishes are gone from my skin. My hair is perfect. Nobody's, even the people who take the picture. I wish I looked like those pictures of me. They've been, it's like nobody's life is that perfect. You get to, if they're honest with themselves, to realize, hey, there's something going on. Even, we can look at our lives and think, okay, I've got this going on, and there's, oh, this guy's really got it bad, and compared to them, maybe I've got it pretty good.
Yeah. And instead of them being rejected,
Yeah,
I can identify with that.
yeah,
I've been through that too.
yeah,
I have my struggle, but I also have an answer that has seen me through
yeah,
my situation. It's the same Jesus that can see you through yours too.
Our pastor used to always say, you're either heading into a storm, you're in a storm, or you're coming out of a storm.
yeah.
It's like, you're in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's not like you get to stay on the mountaintop,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and nothing had. Yeah, that thought that just fell out of my head. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this pastor had leukemia. He had a long, enduring storm.
Yeah.
And, but it's just so true. Like you say, none of us have it just a wonderful, perfect life.
yeah,
There's always something going on.
yeah, and I think that's one of those things too. Is just a lot of people don't want to admit that they're like trying to keep up that appearance that I've got this, and I think I've seen people in the church have done that. I was this and I was this and I was this, and then Christ came to my life. Hey, everything, sunshine, roses,
Right.
and it's like, oh, you got saved just 2 days ago, huh?
Yeah.
I've seen people like, oh no, and like I said, it's the thing where, Jesus gets us through stuff, and I keep going through all the, look at the things that, this last year has been just a wild one for our family. It's like,
Yeah.
and I keep thinking that old Keith Green song, how can they live without Jesus? It's like, I don't know how these people do it. That,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, and but I think that's maybe one of the challenges. Like I said, people that see us outside the church walls, do they see Jesus making that difference in our lives? They see that when we're going through those rough times, that Jesus is the one that's our strength. This is how we get through. We're not just tough people. We've got Jesus helping us out.
Yeah. I think that's part of the key for the church, is to let those that are struggling with the church to recognize we've had the same challenges.
Yeah.
We are no different than they are,
Yeah.
but we're here because we're being encouraged in the way that we should go.
Yeah.
Our hope is being fortified instead of dismantled.
Yeah. And it's-
Very true.
Yeah. I mean, they get, if somebody goes through something, online to see somebody, I got this cancer diagnosis. There'll be, some people that will, we're praying for you, and they'll try to be there as comfort. And then there's you get the other people that say, "Oh, you need to do this. You need to, start taking these supplements. You need to start. We'll fix you. It's just that we fix this,
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's not. And and people don't want to hear that. They're looking for a shoulder to cry on. They're looking for someone to be sympathetic. Maybe there is the answer of doing all this stuff, but at that moment they need you gotta weep with those who weep, rejoice with those who rejoice.
Yeah.
And
Well, when my wife was going through cancer, we one person, a pretty good friend of mine, said to me, I knew somebody who had cancer and went to this foreign country, and you can get drugs over there for cancer that's not approved here in the States, and they recovered, and so just spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and she should be okay. And then others would say, strict diet. Take this very strict diet, and you'll be. That's what will get you through. Well, Lori didn't do any of that, but she did ask for prayer and prayed, and we had people praying actually all across the world.
Yeah.
We had people in the Philippines, people in South Africa, all across America. We knew a lot of people, and they were praying for Lori, and that it was stage 4 ovarian cancer, and now it's been, I don't know, a lot of years. So, our trust is in God.
yeah,
And sure, doctors, yes, we want to follow, sound advice from doctors, for sure. But our trust is in God.
yeah. Constantly, for us it was the thing with Denise, the one kind of first round of chemo was something. This works in 95% of the people. It's like, it's not her. It was like, this is not the time we want to be special. And the next stuff did work, and it was like, God, couldn't you have made the first stuff work? And it's like, a lot of it has been, okay, God, what are you trying to teach us through this, And, I think, God's been taking me through learning all sorts of things, about my walk and my walk with Him and things about Him. And, sometimes unless you're going through that fire and through that dark valley, you don't notice those things. And,
Early on in my marriage, my wife and I lost a baby during pregnancy. And she had woke me up in the wee early hours of the morning and explained the pain that she was having and asked me to pray. And so we prayed the prayer of faith. We prayed all the formulas that we had been taught to pray in our lessons about prayer. But by 5 a.m. in the morning, I was in the emergency room watching the remains of our baby being removed from my wife. Through a physician's error, he'd only pulled the curtain down to her waist, and I could see her from the waist down. And that totally dismantled our faith and everything other than the fact that Jesus Christ had died for my sins and my wife's sins. We kind of aborted everything else in that package of belief. But we were surrounded by our church. They came knocking on the door when my wife came home with their expressions of love, their expressions of support. They brought meals, they brought their love, and that kept us involved in the church. Tough things happen, and the important thing that we have before us on our dashboard is to be just love. You don't have to have the answer, because sometimes there is no answer of why did we lose that baby. All we knew is we lost the baby. But we just love people, and be there with them and say we care, and that can keep people coming back to the church.
I guess kind of wrapping back towards our topic,
Yeah.
why people don't come. I guess, part of it is that they're not feeling that love. I mentioned our previous discussions. I used to work food service for about nearly 25 years, and it was, worked all the different shifts, and, on Sunday mornings, working that church rush, where everybody's rushing to get to the restaurant after church. It was like, a lot of the servers, they would rather work the Saturday night bar rush than the Sunday morning church rush.
It's better to be with a happy drunk than an unhappy church member.
That was kind of the thing. The drunks you just put some food in front of them and they're happy, but boy, this church crowd, they were the pickiest bunch, and then they had, for a while people had the tracts that would leave that would look like a $20 bill, but it was, you thought you were getting $20, but you're getting, oh man, those people, they would get real upset about that kind of stuff. It was like, they definitely weren't feeling the love from the church crowd. And it was like, oh man, and I said there's a lot of the self-righteous attitude, like, we just went to church, but you pagan, you're working
on Sunday.
You're working on Sunday, and it was like, the person says, they still charge me for the electricity I use on Sunday at home. But it was very much that attitude, that I think that self-righteous attitude, they definitely weren't feeling the love from the Christians.
How much grace do we exhibit and hand out, throughout the course of our week?
Yeah. And, I just had the food service. I don't know how it was like at the mall or that, at the retail stores, if you get the church crowd would come, if they were being as bad, the other retail people or not. But it was, that was, wow, So when it got to the point where I actually had a shift where I was able to go out after church, we always tried to be as nice as we could.
Yeah.
But, it was like, it wasn't, even though we could be as nice as we were, sometimes some of the other people in the crowd is like, oh no, we're going to have to double our tip, because we know they're not going to be leaving a tip, And it was, it was kind of rough, it was like, trying to, I said, you kind of get that, the bad press, that, oh man, it's like, okay, you'd think that working that church rush would be should be the blessing of the week and not the curse of the week.
Well, shame on us.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me back to another favorite author I have, and it's Brennan Manning.
Yeah.
And one of his quotes is, "The greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips, walk out the door, and deny him by their lifestyles.
Yeah.
That's what the unbelieving world simply finds unbelievable."
Yeah.
And I think that's what you were referring to, Scott, with the Sunday afternoon crowd, where the pastor wasn't on the menu, but they had him for lunch anyway.
Oh yeah.
And so they're just not full of grace as they go through their daily activities.
Yeah. That's one of those rough things. It's like, okay, and it's again, looking at ourselves, okay, how do we present our, are we gracious to the people we meet, in the stores and stuff? That's something we try to do, with varying levels of success, I'm sure.
I really like that pay it forward thing that came through, a while back about, paying for the car behind you in the espresso line at the drive-in, letting somebody, into your spot where they've got a bunch of groceries and a crying child, and you're there with your grocery cart, let them in, just, looking for opportunities to show grace.
Well, I think a lot of it is just, looking for opportunities, it's like, being, it's get that situational awareness of being aware of what's going on around you, being aware of the people around you.
Yeah.
And partly realizing everybody's going through something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sister had a situation in a grocery store where the lady in front of her broke down and cried because she didn't have the money for the necessity. She was needing to buy the diapers and everything like that, and my sister paid for her grocery bill.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's looking for the divine appointments. Knowing that there's people out here that are struggling just like you and me, but maybe not having the wherewithal to take care of that struggle. And maybe we do, look for the opportunity to do that.
Mostly, I think praying for those divine appointments. That it's part of that. Which line do I get into? It's not necessarily okay. This is going to be the shortest line.
Yeah.
Okay, God, you really want me to get behind that person who's got that giant shopping cart loaded with stuff? I've got 5 items here. But sometimes I've actually had things where I've got a couple of different grocery stores I shop at, and God, which store? Should I go to this one and I had one where it was like I just felt go to the other store that I'm not as familiar with the layout in, and actually ran into a friend I hadn't seen in years and years that God just said just being willing to say I'm going to change my routine just a little bit because I'm going to ask God about this one. And it was neat. It was a neat blessing. Get to see him.
Yeah. We're called fishers of men. I don't pray very often where I'm going to cast my line today. And I think that really needs to be part of our prayer life. Just help me be aware of the opportunities.
We're talking about things Christians do outside of church that keep people away. I remember watching videos of people who were in trouble, like they had been arrested. I think maybe it was on 2020 or something like that. This person had been accused of murdering somebody, and what do you see? You got the necklace with the big cross, and I've noticed that numerous times that what kind of a witness are you being? They're busted for doing drugs. They got the big cross there. It's that doesn't help our the cause of Christ.
Well, there's that. I guess you call it like cultural Christianity. I think other parts of the world where Christianity maybe isn't as prevalent. They look, you're American, you must be Christian. Even though our country is getting a lot further away from that now. But it used to be a thing, I'm Christian, I was born in America, and there's, a certain mentality. I think there's certain people that, I was raised in a Christian home, but, it didn't take, and then you get, various, cultural groups where, wearing a big cross is the thing that everybody does. It's just, a fashion accessory. It doesn't really mean anything. It's more just a fashion accessory. And, unfortunately, some people, their Christianity is a fashion accessory too. So I put, I guess I'm not a real fan of politicians, but, especially when, we've got to go to church, it's like, there for the photo op, and I think unfortunately there's a lot of just normal people on the street who go to church because it looks good or something like that too, and but it's getting away from it. It's that if Christ is actually impacting your life, it's going to show. I think it's going to show anyway.
Yes.
If it doesn't, it ought to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
We wandered a little bit off of what we thought we were going to talk about. But
I remember one time driving home from work and I saw this pickup truck and there, a couple bumper stickers on them. and they were totally conflicting. The one was, you know, like something you would say, wow, what a great Christian message, you know. It was really good. And I think I saw that one first, and I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. And then I saw this other bumper sticker that was, and I wish I could remember what it said, but I don't. But I just remember it was so conflicting.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, how do those two, how do you fit those two bumper stickers together?
Yeah.
Maybe they were his and hers side of the truck, you know, so equal opportunity.
Yeah. Or as I get to the people that, you know, have got the Christian bumper stickers, they got the fish, or they've got the honk if you love Jesus, then if you honk your horn, they get real upset. And,
Yeah, true story. I had a pastor friend who was late for church, and he was weaving in and out of traffic, and somebody had let him know how he had disappointed them, and so he flipped them off. And he got to church, and they were sitting in the congregation, and he publicly apologized from the pulpit for his highway salute. And so you can't compartmentalize your life.
Yeah, you
And
can.
I think that's
right.
part of our lesson as the church, you know, to not compartmentalize our lives and to extend that grace.
Yeah. Also, that compartmentalization, you know, what happens Sunday morning has to spill over into the whole rest of the week, you know. And, that's the key. That's, and I look, again, it gets down to, there's a bunch of bad press about the church, and unfortunately, we've got a lot of bad witnesses out, not us, but, hopefully not us. But, it's like, I think it's part of our job as believers to try to counteract that bad press, as much as we can as individuals. We can't do it for the whole world, but we can do it for the people we contact. They'll say, hopefully they can, know that, hey, Ray's a Christian, and I see this thing on the news, Ray's not like that. Ray's not like that at all, and they'll realize that, hey, maybe what we're seeing on the news isn't the real story of what's going on, and whether or not it happens completely in our lifetime, we can change the bad press. I don't know. Unfortunately, I read the book of Revelation. I don't think we get. I don't think it happens. But any final thoughts, guys?
Well, there was a survey done in 2007, and based on the data, we found that most of the lifestyle activities of born-again Christians were statistically equivalent to those of non-Christians. When asked to identify their activities over the last 30 days, born-again believers were just as likely to bet or gamble, to visit pornographic websites, to take something that did not belong to them, to consult a medium or psychic, to physically fight or abuse someone, to have consumed enough alcohol to be considered legally drunk, to have used an illegal non-prescription drug, to have said something to someone that was not true, and so on.
Yeah.
So it's, and the divorce rate among Christians and non-Christians, basically it's the same.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of stuff that, we're not pulling the wool over anyone's eyes when we act like that and produce statistics like this, People are not dumb. They can figure it out quite easily.
Also, when they look at stuff like that, and they'll say, why should I become a Christian if there's no difference,
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to demonstrate the difference.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the difference is in the destination.
Yeah.
Whether or not you believe in God, you're still going to meet Him at some point in your journey.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not just at the last meeting, because it's not going to turn out well, because the destination's not going to be where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think, we have to come to the mindset that everything means something. And we don't have that opportunity to not do what's right in the moment, because everything means something.
Yeah.
And to have consistency in our witness.
Yeah.
And not be Sunday Christians and Easter Christians and Christmas Christians, but fill in all of the blanks through the rest of the year.
Yeah.
When you said that about Easter Christians and so forth, at Beaverton Forest Square Church, Easter Sunday, there's like 10,000 people that come. And after the service, a lady went up to our pastor and said to him, "Your sermon was so amazing. Your church, the music, the people are just warm. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I can't wait to come back next Easter."
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a different mindset that some people have.
Yeah. And yes, that when you start turning your life over to God, it's like, and you're letting Him start doing stuff with it. Yeah. It's amazing, all the changes and the transformation, and it's that we got to let Him do His work. We can't be saying, "Okay, I've got this all together. I'll just show up and say hi, God. You're lucky for you, I'm on your team." And but let God transform us. God's got bigger plans for each of us than we can imagine. And God's got stuff that we can't even think. Our minds are not God's mind. We don't think the way He does. And God's got all this stuff planned for us if we let Him transform us.
And transformation is a process, isn't it?
Yeah,
it takes a while. It's not overnight.
I wish it was that flip the
I do
switch.
too.
But yeah, he takes his time.
Yeah, and it's kind of a painful process.
Yeah.
At times.
But well, so we wind up here. Unless you guys have got more things that are just gotta get it out, gotta say it. Well, thanks for joining us this week. We've given you some food for thought. Just encourage you to just let God transform your life and let Him work in us so that we can be a better witness for those outside the church, people who need to know Him and need to come to Him. We just thank you for joining us today, and may God richly bless you throughout this week.
You the strength you place in the fire. We ask you for patience. You pound the sin forward. You baptize with your spirit. Our tension strength grows high. We come forth with fruit from the forest.